know the difference between being woken up and being ambushed. The knock came at 6:04 a.m. I know because I looked at my phone before I looked at the door, which is something I started doing 2 years ago after my parents made their first attempt at the property. A letter, a threat, a lawyer who quietly withdrew when he understood the actual ownership structure. I'd learned to document first and react second. The deputy was young. Polite in the stiff way people are polite when they're doing something they're not entirely comfortable with. He held a document at chest height, like a shield, and told me there was a court order requiring me to vacate the premises by 9 a.m. I didn't say anything. I asked if I could see it. He handed it over without hesitation, which meant he believed it was real. I read slowly, not because I was afraid, but because documents have a grammar to them, a specific architecture of language that courts use and don't deviate from. Case numbers formatted a particular way, judge signatures accompanied by specific notary stamps, filing dates that correspond to actual court calendars. I got to the third paragraph before I found it. The judge's name was the Honorable Patricia Voss. I knew that name. I knew it because Patricia Voss had retired from the bench 14 months ago. Her retirement had been covered in the local Bar Association newsletter, which I had read because I was in the middle of a zoning dispute at the time and was tracking every judicial reassignment in the county. The order was dated 11 days ago. Patricia Voss had not been a sitting judge 11 days ago. She had not been a sitting judge for over a year. The detail was so specific in its wrongness that it stopped being alarming and became something else, almost clarifying. Someone had found her name on an old ruling, copied her signature from a public document, and assumed no one would check. They had assumed I would see a court seal and feel the floor go out from under me. They had assumed that 6 a.m. and a uniform and official-looking paper would be enough to move me before I could think. They had built the entire thing on the premise that I would panic. I handed the document back to the deputy. "Can I show you something?" I said. I pulled up the Bar Association announcement on my phone. Retirement ceremony, photograph, date. Then I pointed to the signature on his document, then the date on his document. He looked at both for a long moment. His jaw didn't drop. He didn't say anything dramatic. He just exhaled through his nose. A slow, controlled breath, and I understood that he was recalibrating, working out what he'd walked into. "I need to make a call," he said. "I know," I said. "I'll wait inside." He was on the phone for 19 minutes. I made coffee. I didn't pace. I didn't call anyone. Whatever was going to happen was already in motion and didn't need my anxiety to move it along. When he knocked again, his posture had changed. The document was in his hand differently, held away from his body now, like something that had changed category. He told me the order was being flagged for verification. He told me I was under no obligation to vacate. He told me, carefully, with the measured language of someone who had just spoken to a supervisor, that he was sorry for the early hour. I thanked him. I meant it. He'd been used and he'd corrected course when it mattered. My parents called twice that afternoon. I let both go to voicemail. Not out of anger, out of a kind of exhaustion that had been building for years. The exhaustion of being someone's contingency plan, someone's obstacle, someone's problem to be routed around. I had spent so long learning the language of every document connected to this house that I had essentially made myself impossible to displace through paperwork alone. They hadn't understood that. Maybe they still didn't. I stood at the kitchen window as the light changed, and the street outside moved through its ordinary morning. Somewhere across town, a forged signature was being examined by people whose job it was to care about such things. I drank my coffee. The house was quiet, in the way that houses are quiet when they belong to you.